rather than telling people you're going to go live.
Kicked off. Okay, we're going to get started. Good morning. Welcome. We're going to talk about how to best utilize VoIP and what some of the things we're seeing in the marketplace and a little bit of client stories today to talk about. And a little background on me. Michael Coopersmith. I've been part of integrated technology systems for quite a long time. I'm the CEO of the company. I've had a history of working with computers since the 1980s. Always been a hobby and a passion of mine. I really enjoy working with technology and just tinker with it outside of my normal day-to-day. And we moved our business basically into the cloud in 2010. So what are we going to talk about today? We're going to discuss VoIP, some of the benefits, how to best utilize VoIP, and some options in the marketplace. So some of the challenges, we need, as we were saying last week, we need to work from anywhere. We need to work with any device. Our VoIP solution needs to be easy to use. We need to be able to collaborate with coworkers easily and simply. And, we've heard all these stories about security. It needs to be secure, and it needs to be easy for our IT or for us to support and make sure, especially in this world where we're all working remotely and in different places, it needs to be easy to support. It needs to be easy for our users to be able to plug in a phone at home, use a phone on their computer, use a phone on their cell phone. And most importantly, it needs to be cost effective. It needs to make financial sense for the firm. Oops, sorry, went the wrong way. My apologies. One second. So I'm sorry about that. So we're going to kind of start over. So it needs to be, as I was saying, it needs to be cost effective. So basically, as I said, if it doesn't make financial sense, it doesn't make sense to move forward with it. So we moved our phones into the cloud in 2009. At that point, the internet did not have enough bandwidth. We had a dedicated internet connection from a provider. We were deploying connections to clients that way. And we had clients where we were actually putting phones at people's homes. Way back in 2005, we actually started with a private equity firm where the owner of the firm had a house in Connecticut, and he wanted to be able to seamlessly make calls from there. And they had other people working from home on Fridays, and they wanted basically calls to be able to make. So we deployed VoIP way back then with a company called M5 Networks, who has since been acquired a few times over. But basically, we've been deploying it, and it allowed at that point, the real cost-effective piece was For offices that had multiple offices throughout the country or satellite offices or people working from home on various days, calls were able to be made from anywhere at any time, any place, easily and seamlessly. So, when we look at phone systems today, we've moved from, and we still have clients with this, where there was a phone system in the closet. We couldn't make calls from outside the office. We had to dial in to get our voicemail. And then we gradually internet enabled those phone systems. So we could go call into the phone system. We could retrieve our messages from our computer and our phone. We could maybe add a phone from that phone system to outside the office, extend it to our home. However, a lot of times we had to create complex VPNs or introduce security issues into it. Basically, we're allowing a hole through our firewall to our phone system, and that caused all sorts of different problems, whether home internet connections issues, office issues, security issues. It basically made the deployment quite complex. So, with that, we had a piece of hardware we needed to maintain. We had a support contract with that company. If the phone system went down, you have no phones. The phone system occasionally needed software firmware upgrades, which you had to install, which meant downtime. And again, as we were talking, the security issues. If you have a problem in your, and also if you had some problem that were not related to the phone system, you lost electricity, your carrier such as Windstream, Verizon, or others went down, you had no phones, or you have no phones if that's the case currently today. So basically, the natural progression has been moved to VoIP. All the features of a large enterprise at a small business price. Some of our clients we're seeing they're actually using call reporting. They want to know how many calls are coming in, how many calls are coming out. We look at basically on a day-to-day basis for ticketing for ourselves. We look at how many calls did we make inbound, how many calls did we make outbound, and kind of gives us an idea of some trending pieces. We also have clients that are much more on the sales side of things or have call centers, and they actually want to see the average length of a call, the average time somebody's on a call, or if you have an outbound salesperson, how many outbound calls are they making in a day, and that it all can be tracked and recorded. So then we get into the fact that now we've moved the phone system out of the closet, our IT room can shrink, we don't have any complex pieces, we don't have those service contracts. And on top of it, some of the simple administration of somebody's name changes, we have a new employee sitting at a new desk, all can be changed right from the web on the phone system. We no longer have to have somebody come in and take care of something. Either our IT company can do it, or a lot of times we can take care of some of the simple administrative stuff. Jane is replaced by Barbara, and basically sitting at the same desk, we can go in and change the administration, change the name, change the email address, and the phone populates. Also, we can turn around if we want, and somebody wants to put a phone at home and have a second phone, they can have that. With this also, we built in a whole lot of redundancy into the system. So what happens today is, our office goes down, we can work from home. As we are in COVID, we need to work from home. We can just go plug a phone in. We can just bring our phones and work from home. I actually, for instance, brought my phone here, which is with me, and actually it's not connected just for the sake of this. I have a phone here, I have my cell phone, I have a lot of the pieces that we'll go into. So what are we currently seeing today, and what's some of the things? And we're seeing this across our clients and different pieces that we think people could benefit from some changes, and we'll talk about some clients that are doing some things different. So what we saw when COVID started was even with VoIP, a lot of clients were just logging into the system and forwarding the call to their cell phone. All outbound calls were being made from the person's individual cell phone, basically, which meant when the calls came, or we're seeing the signature of people adding their cell phone number. And so basically what's happening is all the calls are all of a sudden avoiding the phone system, and all the calls are coming into your cell phone unfiltered, and you got to filter them. You lose control of the call metrics. If an employee leaves, they're leaving with the person's contact, having that person's direct cell phone number, not the office number. Outbound calls are all being made with the person's cell phone number. And on top of it, it makes it very difficult if you're dealing with a coworker and a call needs to be transferred. There's no way to transfer a call between coworkers on a cell phone. So what we've seen some of our clients as they've moved to VoIP during this period of time is some of them are basically adding all sorts of options that we'll talk about right from here. Some of our clients have gone to VoIP. Some have installed a physical phone at their house for their employees. Others are using what they call a soft phone. They're using their computer, their cell phones, and all the outbound calls are being made with the office number, not the user's cell phone number. For instance, we have a financial firm that basically turned around and had a traditional phone system. They migrated to VoIP. They put the application for the phones on people's cell phones, so all calls are being made with company number. Inbound calls are now able to be received, and they're able to transfer calls between people. And on top of it, your inbound calls are clearly differentiated, work versus personal calls. So that's some of the things we're seeing out there. So picking a provider, I think, is a really important part, because they're your partner in your voice, and a voice is an integral part of the business. So we want to make sure they provide the features and they're easy for the employees to access. You need to review the terms of the agreement. Some providers are on a month-to-month, some have a long-term agreement, some have a mix and match depending on pricing, whether they include the phone, whether they don't include the phone. And there is no right or wrong answer, but I think you just need to make sure you understand what you're getting, what you're paying for, whether you own the phones, whether the provider owns the phones. For instance, we own our own phones. If we were to change providers, and the phones were compatible with that provider, we could just basically reprogram the phones for that provider. So those are some of the things. And most importantly, being this is your partner for your voice, you got to understand the support process. All right, how quickly will somebody respond? Are you getting email only support? Are you getting a person to talk to? Will they log into the system and help you make changes? Or how does support work, and how do you get it, and what's their onboarding process like? So right now, kind of looking at ITS and what options we offer. We offer two options at this point. We are offering FluentStream, the provider we currently use for ourselves internally. And a lot of times that's usually the provider we usually recommend is the one we use. It's not the fit for everybody, but we understand it the best of anything else that we work with. We're also doing Microsoft Teams Business Voice, which is Microsoft's new option in the last year, and they're now offering some great incentives. Basically, you can have your Teams client and use that for all your calls, and everything is integrated in Teams. We have clients with other providers as well that are very reputable and very good that we work with: Net2Phone, RingCentral, 8x8. These all, and we support these options for our managed service clients. So basically, they have a direct contract. They've engaged with those providers. We help with the IT implementation, and they deal with the rest of this information of call flow changes and other pieces with those providers. With the top two, we're an integral part of the setup process, change management, and everything else that comes along with it. So kind of talking about, why we use it. One of the things is they have excellent voice quality. The web administration is extremely easy to use. We have a wide selection of phones, from Yealing to Polycom phones to other brands of phones that we can use. And there are different pricing plans depending on the use, whether it's a phone for a conference room or a user that's basically on the phone all the time. And their contracts are month to month, and they provide great support. They generally within an hour back to you and will work on a problem until it is resolved. So then the other option that we're also talking about is Microsoft Teams for Business. It's an integrated solution. It's fully integrated into your Teams client. There's no additional software besides the Teams client to install. You can get a physical phone. You also can get some really cool options of, you can get an integrated conference room option from Polycom, Zoom, Yealink, Crestron. They all offer options that basically you can tie your conference room video conferencing voice into the phone system completely with Teams. So, and it allows for one application for your voice, your video, and your chat. So basically that's the high level view of our VoIP presentation tonight. So any questions?
Hey, Michael, got a question that came in. Do I need to purchase new phones?
You know, that's an interesting point. The answer is it depends. If you're coming from a traditional phone system where you had it in the closet like an old Toshiba, yes. If you're sitting there with the current cloud provider and you've got Polycom phones or you got Yealink phones and you own the phones, most likely not.
All right, I got another one. If let's see, I want to keep my phone, can my number transfer?
You know, so can my number, yes, you can port your numbers over to the new carrier. You need to sign up what they call a letter of authorization, and all your numbers can be transferred. There is programming that's needed to match the call flow, and make sure you're very specific about the call flow that you have and what you expect. That's usually one of the biggest issues we do find is people make assumptions and we ask a bunch of questions, and then we get to day one, the implementation, and there's some call flow issue that there was never discussed.
If I only have Wi-Fi at my home, what are my options?
Generally, you can't use a physical phone. I'm working on Wi-Fi myself, and you can use the soft phone off your computer, which is an application that runs on your computer or runs in the web browser, or you can use an application off your cell phone that most providers provide, and you use it from that. And I actually use that myself when I'm when I'm home on Wi-Fi, and I also use it on cellular when I'm outside in the outside world away from Wi-Fi.
Okay, got another question. Can I have a phone at my office and at my home?
Absolutely. That's one of the beautiful pieces. I actually have 3 phones myself. So I have one phone at my office, I have one phone at my place in New York, I have another phone at my place out in Pennsylvania. So I have 3 separate phones. Any one of those phones will ring my information. I turn the ringers down when I'm not at those locations. Basically, I have those phones, and on top of it, as I said, I have the soft phones. So you can have multiple options. Some providers limit the number of phones. You'd have to check with the provider on how many phones they allow, but I know at least all of them allow at least 2 phones.
Are you using Microsoft Voice directly or paired with the UC provider?
That is a good question. You can do either option. You can do Microsoft Voice from them, or you can use a provider and you can go direct routing. So the provider would basically provide all the call flow function, all the other pieces, and route the calls to Microsoft, and you would still be using your Microsoft, your Teams phone or your Teams client to answer the calls.
Doesn't look like any more questions are coming in.
Well, thank you very much. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. My contact information is here. And thank you very much for your time today.